Jetpack Call of Duty games were one of a kind. Honestly, I don't know if we will ever see them again, if they'll ever think of remaking them, or if the community will ever want to see them again. But it was a very interesting time for Call of Duty fans. I think the Jetpack Call of Duties were the devs trying to take the franchise in a different direction. In a direction that honestly a lot of the people who are hating on Modern Warfare right now, that was the direction that you guys are wanting at the moment. You know, a lot of the old school Call of Duty games were pretty slow. Now, Modern Warfare is an exception, okay? This game is beyond the points of slow. I can still go back and play Modern Warfare 2, COD 4, Modern Warfare 3, Black Ops 1. I could still go back and play those Call of Duty games, and it is not even close to being as campy as Modern Warfare. But there are still slow Call of Duty games. And if you think about it, the game that came out before all the Jetpack Call of Duty games were starting was Call of Duty Ghost. And you guys know Ghost was definitely a slow Call of Duty game. Now, for me personally, I could tolerate it. I was still enjoying my time with it. But for a lot of others, it was a very harsh experience. And that was the final game before the Jetpacks introduced themselves to all the Call of Duty fans. Then came Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, and Advanced Warfare was that step to try to evolve the video game. Honestly, it felt like a classic traditional boots on the ground game when you're just running around, but the jagged, jumpy movements were also introduced to maybe speed the classic playstyle up. Now, Advanced Warfare, it wasn't really my favorite Jetpack Call of Duty game. To me personally, it was one of the games that, was trying to test the grounds of the jetpacks, trying to, test the waters, see how they could make the jetpacks actually work for the game to be fun. Then comes Black Ops 3. And Black Ops 3 was the second Call of Duty game to come out in the jetpack cycle. Well, the 3-year jetpack cycle, as we all know. We pretty much all went through this cycle. Now, Black Ops 3 wasn't too shabby. It got tons of hate, of course, as you guys know. Jetpacks probably, how can I say, it wasn't really that appreciated by the community, that it was 2 years straight at that point, but we still accepted it. We were still willing to go another year, even though a lot of fans wanted to make a return to boots on the ground. But overall, it was still a very solid game, and it lasted years after its release as well. A good 2 to 3 years for a lot of players, and some players are still playing it to this day. So it was a very good game at the end of the day when the rest of the Call of Duty games came out in the cycle. But after Black Ops 3 comes the final Call of Duty game that came out in the Jetpack cycle, and that was Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. I can't tell you how many times I called it Call of Duty Infinity Warfare or Infinity Ward. Why did they put those names so close to each other? It was so weird. But Call of Duty Infinite Warfare was made by Infinity Ward, the same people who made Call of Duty Modern Warfare. Don't know how. Two completely different games, like they do not resemble each other, not even to the slightest. But they made Infinite Warfare, and they also made the whole Modern Warfare series as well. But Infinite Warfare was pretty much the nail in the coffin for a lot of Call of Duty fans. That was pretty much it for the Jetpack cycle, and a lot of people gave that game some hate. Whether it deserved it or not, I think the majority of the hate, and I said this on day one when when Infinite Warfare was actually out and in its prime, I was saying this game is getting tons of hate because of the main fact that it is the third Jetpack COD straight. They took no breaks. That's like if Call of Duty went and made 3 World War II games without changing the time period at all. It's like it was literally three futuristic CODs, because where else would you make jetpacks in any other time period? So they had to be futuristic. So we were forced to play 3 futuristic CODs straight, and all of them were not boots on the ground at all. They were straight jetpack CODs. And I'm kind of sad about that, because I feel like Infinite Warfare had a lot of promise, and was probably, me personally, my favorite jetpack COD out of all 3. Now, Black Ops 3, I like it a lot. Don't get me wrong, it resembles more of a core Call of Duty feel. It's more grounded than Infinite Warfare is, so that's why a lot of people, I think, levitate more over to Black Ops 3. But if you got really into the jetpacks, which I was actually pretty much enjoying it at that point, even though it made me rage a lot, like breaking disc a lot, like I hated those CODs. But when I go back and play them again, it's a lot of fun, I'm not gonna lie. because the movement is insanely smooth. Now, the thing that I think threw a lot of people off with Jetpack Call of Duty games and made them hate it a lot as well is that scuffs were pretty much in a massive advantage on the playing field. It's no longer classic Call of Duty where anybody could possibly win a gunfight. I mean, if you had one of those, actually built up scuff controllers, or I don't know who else makes controllers like that, I never bought one. But if you have something like that, that gave you a massive advantage because jumping in those games is key. Seriously, jump strafing replaced real strafing. When you saw an enemy, your best technique was to either, jump up, boost to the left, jump up, boost to the right, or boost in any direction. That's usually how you engage. It's not a lot of gunfights you would see in Infinite Warfare where you stay on the ground, because whoever gets the height advantage or whoever could boost off in the right direction will probably win that gunfight. And the jetpacks in Infinite Warfare were insanely smooth. I'm not gonna lie, that's probably my main favorite feature of Infinite Warfare. The smoothness of those jetpacks blew my mind. But this stuff is kind of all besides the point. I really wanted to talk about how I personally think these Jetpack Call of Duty games are getting a ton of hate. Like, seriously, let's be honest here. Were they really that bad of Call of Duty games? A lot of us are asking for that fast-paced vibe. That's why when Treyarch, one of the most popular studios, I never really thought Sledgehammer was able to develop themselves enough to be a dominant studio for Call of Duty, and now they're cut, so they will probably not have enough time to, establish themselves as dominant studios. But Infinity Ward and Treyarch were always the main dominant people in the Call of Duty scene. But when Treyarch went off and made Black Ops 4, you could tell they were really trying to rub off some of the vibes that Black Ops 3 has tried to introduce to the Call of Duty fan base. I think these Jetpack CODs, like I said, they were trying to take a step in another direction. They were trying to quicken up the pace of their Call of Duty games. And it's funny, and seriously, it is funny to me now, because a lot of people, like I said, hate on Call of Duty Modern Warfare. But honestly, Call of Duty Modern Warfare resembles a lot more of what the classic Call of Duty games resembled compared to a game like Black Ops 4. I just don't think that it's fair. The criticism that these games get and all the criticism that the developers have to deal with, I don't think that people actually hate these Jetpack Call of Duty games. I really think that a lot of people enjoy them. Because when you see a lot of the people in the Call of Duty community, when they talk about they want a faster game or it's too slow, it resembles a game like Black Ops 4, which was constant, action. And I did give props to Treyarch for making their game like that. Like I said, what destroyed Black Ops 4 was the microtransactions. But the gameplay, I mean, you could get some 100+ kill games pretty frequently in Black Ops 4, and let me tell you, that was tons of fun. So like I said, Black Ops 4 isn't a bad game. It was tons of fun. But people who like games like Black Ops 4 shouldn't really hate on the Jetpack Call of Duty games, because those Jetpack CODs paved the way for a game like Black Ops 4 to be made. It introduced that more aggressive, fast-paced style gameplay. I think the developers just force-fed us way too much of it, to a point where we just couldn't take it anymore. It's always good to throw a little variety into the mix, especially when you're a development studio that is making games yearly. These aren't 2-year releases, these aren't 3-year releases. These games come out every single year. So we don't get any breaks in between. We play a game for a year, and then we get the next one the same time next year, So we continuously have this flow. And when you force the same exact thing to us every single time, we're going to get tired of it. People are not going to enjoy it anymore. They want something different. So I always felt that these Jetpack Call of Duty games, especially Infinite Warfare for getting millions of dislikes on the trailer, I'm still amazed. I mean, I was one of the people who disliked it because I was not happy that they were doing jetpacks for a third year straight. I was one of the people that really wanted some boots on the ground action. Like I said, it rubs off on everybody. Nobody was happy at that point. What if the developers decided to distance out the releases of all of these Call of Duty Jetpack Call of Duty titles? What if instead of having Advanced Warfare, Black Ops 3, and then Infinite Warfare, what if they did Advanced Warfare, a couple of boots on the ground, Black Ops 3, then another couple of boots on the ground, and then Infinite Warfare, and repeat the cycle like that? Do you think that the Infinite Warfare trailer would still have millions of dislikes? Or do you think people would actually accept the game at that point, when it is a little bit more for a variety purpose instead of forcing it at us? What do you think? Do you think these games would actually be accepted a little bit better? Or do you think that the community would still hate the Jetpack Call of Duty games the same way that, you know, they did back when they were in their prime? I don't know. Me personally, I seriously think that these games were pretty solid. Like I said, I was one of you guys who were sitting there raging about how could they do this 3 years straight? What are they doing? What are they thinking? No variety? You know, I was one of those people complaining about the same issue. Don't worry about it. But seriously, go back and give them a try if you still have some of those games, because they were some pretty cool titles. And if they decided to handle them a little bit differently, I think they could have definitely been a solid addition into the Call of Duty franchise, instead of just a obnoxious forced feature on us like they do with everything in these Call of Duty games. But thank you guys so much for listening to this commentary. If you enjoyed it, make sure to leave a like, and if you hate it, you can always dislike. Whatever you want to do, it's all up to you. Also, make sure you leave down in the comment section on how you all feel about this commentary. Seriously, I'm very curious to know on how you guys feel about the Jetpack Call of Duty titles. Do you think that they were meant to be, you know, forced down us like that, so we didn't want any more? Do you think that if they handled them a little bit better and maybe put them at a distant, you know, release date instead of having them all crammed together, do you think that the community would actually enjoy that, or do you think it would still get the same amount of hate that it did back in its prime? Let me know your opinions down below. Seriously, I'm very curious to know what you guys feel about these Jetpack Call of Duty games. But if you just enjoyed this video and all my other content, make sure you go ahead and subscribe and hit that bell notification button. It really is always appreciated. Also, if you want to chat with me or see some behind the scenes clips, you can follow me over on Twitter at JbowenDaMan. And if you want to catch me live streaming, which I don't do very often, but I am going to get into it, I promise, once I get some more time. I'm just grinding YouTube very hard. But if you want to see me live stream some video games, I'm over on Twitch at JbowenDaMan. Thank you guys so much for your support, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.